What's going on, guys? We are back with a brand new video. In today's video we're going to be hopping into my list for AFL Elite players. Now, about a week or two ago on this channel we did go through the Champion Data's list of elite players, so I thought why not I make my own list to head into 2020 with the players that I reckon are elite. Now I just went through, I didn't really have too much of a criteria in this list. I pretty much just chose, I went through each team's list, picked out a few players I thought were elite, but I can almost guarantee I would have missed a few. So if you guys think there's a player from your team that deserves to be on this list, I don't hate anyone, so don't think I hate the player just because I didn't put him on the list. It would have just been that I missed him or something like that. So make sure to drop in the comments the players that I did miss once you see my list, and drop some of your elite players that I missed that I did not include on this list. So before we get into this video though, can you please go down to the link below and follow my Instagram. It's popping up on the screen right now. I'm trying to hit 50 followers on there, so go and hit the follow button, and also drop a like and a subscribe because we're literally like 10 subscribers away from 400 subscribers, so please subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop straight into my elite players list. So first up is Adelaide, and I've gone with Rory Laird. Now this list obviously is like pretty much dry of the top of the elite players, but I have included Rory Laird for some respect to Adelaide. Next up for Brisbane, I've gone with Harris Andrews, Charlie Cameron and Lachie Neale. Now I've three different positions on the ground. These guys are absolutely elite at each position. Harris Andrews arguably the best defender, Lachie Neale arguably the best midfielder, and Charlie Cameron one of the best small forwards in the league. Now next up is Carlton, and I've gone with Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh and Jacob Wiedering. I think these are pretty much all elite players. I almost did not include Sam Walsh, but I thought I may as well. He's very good for the age he is. I think he's like 20 years old and he's already an elite player. Next up for Collingwood, I've gone with Brodie Grundy, Darcy Moore, Taylor Adams and Scott Pendlebury. These players are all elite in their position. The only iffy one was probably Scott Pendlebury, but that's just because he's out of his prime now. But I feel like he's one of them players, when he gets the ball, he does something with it, and I reckon he's still probably an elite midfielder in the competition. Next up for Essendon, I've gone with Zach Merritt and Jordan Ridley. Now this is a very, very hard team to pick because I wasn't quite sure who you would classify as elite. They have some very, very good players on their list, but I would not say it was too mean it was elite. But I have gone with Zach Merritt. I still rate Zach Merritt very, very highly as a midfielder. Jordan Ridley had a breakout year, one of the best halfbacks in the AFL. Next up is Fremantle, and I've gone with Nat Fyfe, Michael Walters and Luke Ryan. Now the only player that could have been on this list I did not include that I can think of right now is probably Matt Taberner, but I feel like that he's not quite an elite key forward yet, but I could be changing my mind at the end of the year. Or I could just be in the quote mind, I don't pay too much attention to Matt Taberner. I did at the end of the year, but didn't realise how good of a year he was having until the end of the year. Next up is Geelong, and I've gone with Jeremy Cameron, Tom Hawkins, Joel Selwood and Patrick Dangerfield. Now there's a couple players or a few players that are missing from this Geelong elite players list that I just did not quite include into the elite category, and that was Cam Guthrie, Mitch Duncan, Sam Menegola and Mark Blitzarves. You can make arguments for them. I just did not quite put them on the elite level, but I could be completely wrong. So sorry about that, Geelong fans, but you should be happy with these four players that are in there. Now next up is Gold Coast, and I've gone with the young star, which is Matt Rowell. Now, after you saw that I did not include Cam Guthrie and all that, you guys have probably already dropped a dislike once you saw that I put Matt Rowell on this list. But I had to chat Matt Rowell on this list. I could not include a Gold Coast player, and I feel like he is an elite player with what we've seen from him so far. I'm sorry if he comes out next year and he's an absolute spud and then he's nowhere near an elite player, but right now what he's shown, I reckon he's an elite player. Next up is GWS, and I've gone with Nick Haynes, Lachie Whitfield, Josh Kelly and Toby Green. Now these players are all really, really good. Some of them did have down years. Nick Haynes, All-Australian for the first time in his career. Lachie Whitfield, unlucky to miss, had the best career season of his career. Josh Kelly is a very, very elite player, just is so injury prone. And Toby Green, was stuck out in 2020 by injury, but the games he played, he showed how good of a player he actually is. So I reckon they're all elite players. Next up is Hawthorne, and these are two players that have recently struck down by injury, and that is Tom Mitchell and James Sicily. Tom Mitchell, obviously everyone knows, after his brilliant Brownlow year, he did end up breaking his leg, and then James Sicily did do his ACL halfway through 2020. So very, very sad. Hopefully Tom Mitchell can get back to his best this year. I think his game style does not get affected too badly by his broken leg, and I reckon he could, be one of the best midfielders in the comp once again. And James Sicily obviously won't play next year, but he still is a very, very elite player, and probably was on track to be almost an All-Australian this year if it wasn't for that injury. Next up is Melbourne, and I've gone with Christian Petracca, Max Gawn, Clayton Oliver, Ben Brown and Stephen May. And they have a lot of elite players on their list. Now they're just trying to build the supporting cast around these guys. Everyone knows Christian Petracca is Brownlow contention going into this year. Came top 3 in the Brownlow last year. Max Gawn, probably the best ruckman in the comp. Him or Nick Nui. Clayton Oliver, one of the best ball winners in the AFL. Ben Brown, probably the most unlucky forward in almost AFL history. Comes second in the Brownlow. Second in the Coleman, I think 3 times now. Hopefully he wins one in 2021. And then Stephen May probably got snubbed from All-Australian this year, a very, very elite fullback. Next up is North Melbourne. I've gone with Todd Goldstein. Now this guy is still a top 5 ruckman in the competition still. I reckon if probably North Melbourne were having a better year, he probably would have got the All-Australian nod this year. But sadly, since his team only won 3 games for the year, he ended up not getting the Australian nod, but he's still in the best career form of his life. Next up is Port Adelaide, and I've gone with Travis Spoke, Charlie Dixon, and Darcy Byrne-Jones. Now, probably the unlucky people to miss is probably Tom Jonas, Zach Butters, Connor Rosie are also in contention. But aside, these guys are probably the 3 elite players for Port Adelaide. Very good at each position. All 3 were all Australians this year, and very, very good to lead Port to number 1 in the AFL last year, and are building to a very, very good 2021 campaign. The next up is Richmond, and I've gone with Dustin Martin, Tom Lynch, Dylan Grimes, Shane Edwards, Shai Bolton, and Jaden Short. Now, there's probably a few other players still missing from that list. That's just how good Richmond is, but I feel like these guys are probably the top notch of players that are on the Richmond list. Now, Trent Cotchin, a very big miss into this list. Maybe Jack Rowell, if you think that. But I feel like their guys are more just leaders on the field. And these guys that I've listed are probably more of the X Factor, the elite players, the guys that give the All-Australian nods. So that's why I've gone with these guys. The next up is my team, which is St Kilda. And I've gone with Jack Steele, Brad Hill, and Dan Butler. Jack Steele in Brownlow contention this year and came 3rd in the Brownlow last year. Brad Hill, one of the best wingmen in the competition, and Dan Butler, one of the best small forwards in the competition. Next up is Sydney, and I've gone with Tom Papley, Lance Franklin, Luke Parker, and Dane Rampy. Now, probably the only people missing from this list, you would have to say, is probably Jake Lloyd, or someone that I'm missing. I'm not sure. That's just the one that probably is in my head, but I've just nudged him out here. And Tom Papley, one of the best small forwards in the competition. Lance Franklin, probably the best forward in the competition when healthy. Luke Parker, very, very underrated, but very, very good. And Dane Rampy, one of the best defenders in the competition. Next up is West Coast, and I've gone with Andrew Gaff, Jeremy McGovern, Josh Kennedy, Tim Kelly, Liam Ryan, and Nick Nui. All absolute great players. Sadly, they were all pretty much out of form apart from Nick Nui and Liam Ryan, you would have to say. Jeremy McGovern just found himself injured. Wasn't liking the Hubs. Josh Kennedy taking a little bit of a decline because of his age. I think he's 33, 34 now. But he's still a very, very elite player. Tim Kelly wasn't as good as he was at Geelong in 2019. But still building into the club. Obviously, he's trying to learn his environment still. Next up is the last team on this list, which is the Western Bulldogs. And I've gone with Marcus Bonampelli, Jack McRae, Adam Treloar, and Caleb Daniel. Marcus Bonampelli, Jack McRae, and Adam Treloar are just absolutely excellent midfielders. Obviously, they're in the best midfield in the competition right now. And then you've got Caleb Daniel, which is currently one of the most, I'd have to say, underrated players in the competition. Probably the best kick in the AFL. Got his first All-Australian nod and actually finished off an absolute brilliant season. But thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe. We're so close to 400 subscribers. Don't forget to follow the Instagram that's linked in the description below. And thanks for watching, guys.